Hello, everybody. In case y'all don't know me, I'm Steven. I'm an ISC major. I'm a junior, and I'm an Orange fam. Yes, there we go. I need 3 volunteers. We're playing Guess Who BCM Leadership Edition. So we get 3 volunteers. Jake, I know you want to come up. Yes. I get 2 more. Okay. All right, so we got all of Blue Fam up here. We got Jake. What is your name?
Kira.
Kira, and you are Laura, right? Awesome. Okay. So tonight's going to be a little bit different than other nights. One leader is going to pop up on the screen. There's going to be 3 choices. And I guess you guys need your things. Cool. So we'll have A, B, and C. Your 3 options.
Here's mine.
Cool. And you just have A.
Thank you.
But you can say B or C. Okay. So first, first question. I'll just read up. What major would Bentley choose if he had to switch to a major unrelated to his field? So we have A, secondary education, B, music, or C, music performance. You pick now. You're going with A. Okay, nice. You think C? All right, Laura, C. The answer is actually A, so good job, Jake. I was helping you out there. So Jake gets 1 point. Second question would be, what is Andrew's pet peeve? A, miscommunication. B, someone setting many alarms and not waking up to any of them. You would not like me then. Or C, complaining. B. You're going with B? Okay. And Laura is going with B. The answer is actually A, miscommunication. So nobody gets points for that. I'm sorry, y'all. Third question will be, what is Deep D's least favorite ice cream flavor? A, sherbet because it's lying about being ice cream. B, any fruit flavor. Or C, pistachio. Pistachio is great, so it better not be C. But, all right, C, A, B. Okay. The answer is B, anything with fruit. Jake, you're on a roll tonight. Fourth question, where would Bentley live if he could live anywhere in the world? A, New Zealand, B, Japan, or C, London? London. Yep. So you all get a point for that. Good job. You all know Bentley well. And then question 5, what is Andrew's most exciting adventure? A, riding an elephant. B, almost falling off a cliff, hiking Angel's Landing at Zion Park. C, mountain biking, losing back brakes at the start, and completing trail with only front brakes. Wow, those are both very specific. C, B, C is correct. So good job, you two. And the last question, question 6. If Deep D could have any untraditional animal as a pet, what would it be? Unrelated major, human development. Hedgehog, I had one, but my mom was allergic. Or a red panda. Nice, Deep D. I did not know any of this about you. Okay, so we got A, human development as a pet. All right, no, you said C, red panda. You're going with human development as well. No way. Okay, so you were actually the only one who was correct with the red panda. She did not want human development as her pet. Neither would I. But yeah, so good job. Jake, I believe you won, but we're not going to keep score. But good job. So you guys can be seated. Thank you. And yeah, so before we call the band up, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Nick. In case you guys didn't know, he just got married over the weekend on Saturday. So, yeah, Nick, congrats to you and Taylor. Super happy for y'all. And if the band just wants to come up. Tonight we're going to be talking about retaliation. And so found a good verse for this. It's one of my favorite. It's Hebrews 3:13. And it says, but encourage one another daily as long as it's called today, so that your heart may not be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. I kind of grew up learning this one. It was really big for me, and I think it will be good just for everyone to keep in mind when dealing with retaliation. So yeah, I'll just give a call to worship. Let us pray. Dear Lord, just thank you for BCM and just thank you for this group. Just thank you for the opportunity for us to just gather here tonight. Just please be with everyone speaking tonight and with the band. Just help us all to learn something more about ourselves and about you, Lord, and just help to keep us safe and just to grow in you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Stephen. We're going to start out with some worship tonight. We're going to sing Open Up the Heavens. So if y'all can stand and join me as we begin singing. We've waited for this day. We've waited for this day. We're gathered in your name, calling out to you. Your glory like a fire, awakening desire will burn our hearts with truth. You're the reason we're here, and you're the reason we're singing. So open up the heavens, we want to see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. Your presence in this place, your glory on our face, we're looking to the sky. Descending like a cloud, you're standing with us now. Lord, unveil our eyes. You're the reason we're here, and you're the reason we're singing. So open up the heavens, we want to see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. Sing this again. And open up the heavens, we want to see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Let's sing this out one more time. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. We want to see you. We want to see you. Open up the heavens. We want to see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our this love that took our place. Just call it what it is. Call it grace. Call it grace. Call it grace. Amazing, unshaking. This is grace. This is grace. Unchanging, unfailing. This is grace. This is grace. Some may call it foolish and impossible, but for every heart it rescues, it's a miracle. It's nothing less than scandalous that Jesus took our place. Just call it what it is. Just call it what it is. Call it grace. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, we're just so thankful for this opportunity, God, to come here again with this beautiful weather, Lord, and just praise your name. I just ask that we can remember, Lord, the grace that you've given us, God, just like this song says, Lord. And I just pray, Lord, that we can hear your word tonight through Nick and Chase, God, and that we can just be in awe of you tonight, Lord, and everything that you've done for us, whether it be today, this week, or from the beginning of our lives, God. And I pray all this in your name. Amen.
All right. Well, as Steven said, I'm married now. Hi. You can call me Mr. Alley. No, please don't. I'm joking. You could call Taylor Mrs. Alley, and that's real weird. But real quick, for those of you here in person, also at home, I think it would be a helpful exercise. But if you have siblings, raise your hand. Just like put it up there. Okay. So most people have hands raised, some not. So you guys either really need to hear this message if you have siblings, or you've already learned it. So we'll see. As an only child, only child that's now married, I probably need to hear it. But as I prepared to speak on this, I definitely felt a bit of what Scott mentioned last week. So if you guys remember, it was a lot of a challenge for him to prepare, and I think for me that's definitely true. I joked in D groups last week about just coming up, reading the passage, and saying, "There you go, don't punch people, woo." And I'm not doing just that, so I'm sorry. Congrats. We'll see. But it just seemed really straightforward. You know, like it seemed so straightforward. I was like, I have no idea what to say. What is there to say? And it took me a while to figure out why that was and what I was struggling with in that. And I think a big part of that is there's so much familiarity with this passage, especially, right? Whereas like last week with oaths, it was like, yeah, what's that? We don't do that. Whereas now it's like, okay, this is something that is really, it's ingrained in Christianity. It is very much a cornerstone of how we were called to live our lives, and because of that, it's something that's so familiar. And so as we prepare to do this, my prayer for you guys as well as me is that we would engage meaningfully with it anew and just learn and grow from it. So we're just going to go ahead, dive right in. So Matthew 5, 38 through 42 is the primary passage for this week. Yay, we have slides. It says, "You've heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you." See, as I said, really straightforward. I'm just going to bring Chase up. We're done. No. But I know you all know where that quote of eye for eye and tooth for tooth is from, right? Faith and Andrew are nodding. Wow. Where is it from? It is from Exodus. So Exodus 21, verses 22 through 25. So that quote is referenced here. It was one of the instructions originally presented during the presentation of the law to the Israelites. So this is in the portion about civil actions as well as personal wrongs and how to go about dealing with those. And very good. It says, if people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. Wow, that's a lot. I'm glad they shortened it in Matthew. Also, reading that, first off, I just really appreciate how oddly specific the law is. Like, where did that come up? And in some way, to me, that reads like it reads like a flow chart, right? So you're in a fight. Did anyone get injured? Yes. Was it a pregnant woman? Yes. How seriously? And it like breaks down from there in some way. That was just the way my mind perceived that, because it's very, very specific. So a pregnant woman gets hit, gives birth prematurely. No serious injury leads to this. Serious injury leads to these things. And one of the things to note there is that it is only if, that's an if right there, the woman was seriously injured, that physical payment would be available. So barring major injury, everything else is just fine. And part of this is, this is part of the law code, right? So this is meant to bring order to Israel. And this was meant to not be thought of as retribution, right? I think in some way it's very easy for us to, especially in the context of Matthew, think about that as retribution of, well, you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you the same amount. Instead, it's meant to serve as a limitation on human nature. And part of that is any of that, it's eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It is an equal thing, right? It's meant to prevent us humans from seeking revenge. So I don't know about you guys, but to me this just snap, it makes sense, because I'm a vengeful person. Whether or not I like to admit it, I think unfortunately Taylor would agree with that. And part of that is when I feel wronged, I want that other person to feel wronged, right? And so if I don't know, interacting with friends, parents, whatever, if someone raises their voice at me, I have to raise my voice at them, right? Like, there's no question about it. If someone yells at me in anger, I'm yelling at them in anger. Or if Taylor does something to hurt me, my gut reaction is to lash out and hurt her, because then we'd feel the same, right? And then in some way that makes it okay. But at this point, Chase, I'm gonna go ahead and invite you up, just to go ahead and share a bit of your own story and how retaliation has had an impact in your life.
That little, it's working, okay. Like Nick said, I'm Chase. I don't know if I've met all of you, but I'm a junior and I am in Gold Family, who's online, so hello, and in the back. But yeah, so Nick asked me to come up here and just share a little bit about my story with retaliation and the topic as such. And so I kind of just want to start off with saying, I'm not one for confrontation, whatsoever. I worked at the YMCA in a little children's area, and I was the person who, I didn't want to discipline the kids, so I stood in the corner where the other person just yelled at the kids, and I was like, But coming with saying that, many people know, I'm not one for confrontation. I don't get angry often. And so saying that, realizing when Nick asked me, I was like, okay, I don't know how this is gonna go. But as I sat down and started reading kind of what Nick wrote and thinking about what I wanted to say, I started to realize there's a difference between confrontation and retaliation. I started to see, at least in my mind, that confrontation is more confronting someone, obviously, calling them out on something, while retaliation to me was more of a revenge or returning like for like. And so as I started to realized that, I was a little bit like, yikes, I am one for retaliation. And so then once that realization set in, I started to realize, like, over the years how I've kind of retaliated in different ways, mainly through passive aggressiveness as well as through kind of holding grudges. And so as I did that, two stories kind of came to mind. And so I kind of want to share those two stories and then kind of wrap it up by just the most important part, saying, kind of what God's done in my life through those things and what he is continuing to do. So the first one kind of comes from a little bit earlier in life, and that comes from high school. I feel like I need to turn this around. I don't know if y'all can see my face, at least on camera. But the first one, like I said, comes from high school. And so I kind of went through a rough patch with some of my best friends who I'd been friends with like 6, 7 years. We had done everything together. And it basically ended up costing us our friendship. To keep it short and be frank, they just weren't treating me right, to be honest, and truly weren't being what you would consider a friend. And so now you're probably thinking, I took revenge on them. No, I didn't. But I thought I had forgiven them and moved on within like a couple months because, I was making new friends. I was doing things I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do when I was friends with them because I was too worried about being friends with them. And so I thought I had moved on. I thought I had turned the other cheek and was, heading down a different path. But in reality, I was just holding a grudge against them. I realized I was bitter, and I spent the next couple of years feeling like I had to try and prove myself and show them all the good things I had done to make them feel like they had missed out on friendship with me. I was trying to be like, look at me, like I'm doing these good things. I'm happy. This is who I am now. You should feel bad that you basically went and ruined this friendship. I believe that by making myself better, I was, in a way, retaliating against them. It was revenge or retaliation just in a way that you typically wouldn't see it. And it literally took me like 3 days ago to realize this when I was sitting on my bed realizing this, and like it all hit me like a train. So yeah. And then the second scenario or story that I have comes from more recently, kind of dealing with one of my roommates. I do want to preface this by saying we're still really great friends because I feel really bad. I'm about to sit up here and talk about him. But we still are great friends. But basically, when you start living with other people, you realize that each person has a different style of living, their own unique way of living, which is not bad. It's a good thing. But then you start to realize sometimes your way of living doesn't always align with theirs. And with that being said, obviously mine didn't necessarily align with one of my roommates. Still doesn't, and that's fine. I make compromises. We all have to make compromises. We realize it, and you have to make compromises and live with it. But there's a point where compromises don't work anymore, and there's a point where it crosses the line, especially when that style of living, in my opinion, begins to degrade or humiliate someone else. And so that's the point it kind of got to. But, like I said, I'm not one for confrontation. So I just avoided it, and I let the tension build up. And so this is kind of when my passive aggressiveness came about. And so passive aggressiveness, I assume everyone, I don't know if everyone knows, but it's like indirect aggression through like backhanded compliments or comments, as well as just shutting off communication. And so my passive aggressiveness came on full display. I don't like passive aggressiveness, but I'm the one who does it. I don't like when people do it to me, but I'm the one who gives it out as well. So I guess I can't say anything with that. But, I became passive aggressive. He would leave the laundry door open and walk outside when it's 32, and I'm sitting on the couch and the cold air is blowing in, so I would go and like slam the door. Or, they leave their shoes all over the door, so every time I open the door, it like hits them, so I would kind of kick the shoes out of the way. Anyways, I feel like I'm making myself sound like a horrible person. I'm not. Trust me, I'm great. I think I can say that. I might be a little biased. But like I said, instead of confronting him and talking to him about it, which kind of Bentley alluded to last week, or a couple weeks ago, I just let the tension build up in me, and I let it simmer. That's what I do. I typically simmer and then explode. And so, I let the tension build up, and I shut off communication with him. I think there was about a span of like 3 to 4 weeks where I talked to him or saw him for about less than a minute, or maybe a minute. So if that tells you anything. But what I realized is the tension was only hurting me. It wasn't hurting them. I thought I was retaliating. I thought, okay, well, if I cut off communication, if I'm passive-aggressive, then it's going to hurt him. And it didn't. It just was hurting me. And unfortunately, like moms get the brunt of it sometimes because I call my mom and complain to her. She was very gracious. She was my rock throughout this whole thing. But, someone doesn't deserve to be called to and complained every single time. And so I retaliated through passive aggressiveness and shutting off communication there. And, things have gotten better recently, but they're still not what you consider normal, I guess. And so kind of wrapping this all up and bringing it most importantly to what God's doing in my life and how he has impacted the situation, I've kind of found that there's a common thread through both of these stories. And that's that I'm not really good at letting go of things. I do have a good memory, I'd say, but that also means that I hold on to the bad ones. And I'm about to do quote something that might cringe some of y'all, so I'm so sorry. But to my people watching online, specifically Connor Thornhill and Maddie, Craig, y'all are gonna love this. But to quote Taylor Swift, but then something happened one magical night. I forgot that you existed. And so this is referring, I know I see Becky over there cringing, sorry Becky. But this refers to the first story. And the fact of, it's kind of just weird. In regard to the first story and my high school friends, I kind of just stopped caring one night. I stopped comparing myself. I stopped feeling like I had to prove something to them. And to be honest, I don't know how it happened. I mean, obviously it was God and glory to him. I can speculate that I think it's kind of when I started coming to college, I got plugged in here and I had a great community and great friends. And the fact that I had to make my faith my own. It wasn't my parents anymore, it was me making the decision. And with that, the fact of, I was doing things that I wanted to do now. Not that I didn't want to do things with them, but I was doing stuff that was more me, stuff that I enjoyed, and I wasn't afraid of it. And I think that kind of helped me to become more confident myself and more confident in myself as a child of God. And so because of that, I stopped focusing on the past and started focusing more on the present. And realized that, I forgave them, and it was time to move on. And, I'm glad it happened because hindsight's 2020, and I want to be here. This type of person who I am today, I want to be enjoying the stuff I am today because, who knows, I don't know, friends sway us in different ways. And so I would also say he's helped me to take thoughts captive and just let them go. It's not done. I'm still taking thoughts captive, and I'm still complaining about stuff with my roommate and everything. But I'm learning how to stop focusing on the problem so much and focus on God. Because when I focus on God, it typically turns out better, and I don't become stressed, and I don't get all flustered and then go crazy, and can't focus on anything. And so I guess the last thing that I kind of leave y'all with is just looking back and then going forward, using it forward. I would say that God has kind of showed me that I can't control what others do or how they act. With my high school friends, I tried, when I felt them slipping, I grasped tighter, but they still slipped away. But what I can choose to do is how I respond and how I define my relationships with people. And with the strength of God, I can choose not to retaliate. And so that's easier said than done, obviously. But all of this being said, I'm just excited to continue to see how God grows in my struggles in relationships and just continues to help me not use passive aggressiveness, but, let him speak through me. So, thank you.
So Chase, first off, I would just like to say thank you just for that and how your story plays out in the way that I feel like it's probably similar to a lot of us, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't really find myself fighting the urge to physically retaliate very often. Instead, it's far easier to be sarcastic with someone or to be passive aggressive with someone, right? And so thank you for your vulnerability in that, and just the way that, I don't know, even from asking you over this process and seeing you become aware, it's really cool. Also, I would like to say, Chase, no matter what I say tonight, you made my wife's night because you referenced Taylor Swift, so I'm just going to go home. No, that's not going to happen. She's not going to care about anything I say. It's fine. Those of you that cringed will hopefully get something good out of this. But so having read that passage back in Matthew chapter 5, I was like, okay, my first question is always why. I'm sorry, I studied philosophy, it's what I do. But my first question is why? Why does this matter? Why should I not retaliate? Yeah, I get it. We've been taught it since the age of 5. It's a good thing to do. But in this instance, why does it matter? So one of the things that initially I just really quickly want to point out is that the call here is a personal call. So what it is saying is that it is a call for each and every one of us to not retaliate or not take out our aggression on someone when we are insulted or when we feel ashamed, when we feel belittled by them. Whatever it might be, that is not like that is what this is talking about. What it is not talking about is communal injustice or large-scale things like that. I mean, we saw Jesus flip over the table. I feel like that's one of the most classic examples. Instead, it is a very personal thing, much like the entire 5th chapter of Matthew and the Sermon on the Mount has been, of examining our own hearts and where we place worth, how we value things. And so in this instance, it is placing our worth and image and being in Christ. So we are so comfortable in Christ that if Stephen were to insult my hair, I wouldn't go home and cry at night and then break into his apartment and shave his head or something silly like that. But if you come for my hair, Stephen, watch out. No. We are here. We are not trying to retaliate. I need to grow too. But it is the ability to take it when someone might insult you, right? Like that's going to happen in life. So I feel like this continues to highlight the very high standard that we as followers of Christ are called to live up to. And in some way, it's like, really? Is this really what we have to do? Come on. But I think this really shows just how ingrained sin is in us as humans, and what it looks like for us to have to work to become more like Christ, because boy, this is uncomfortable and I don't like it. So recently as staff, we were reading through the book Delighting in the Trinity by Michael Reeves. And the last chapter of the book is talking about, it starts off with how the atheists were right, which is a really interesting thing. We don't have time for that. Would recommend the book, though, if you want a nice, light read on the Trinity. But so it's talking, that last chapter is talking about the wrath of God and the love of God and how they go hand in hand and make sense, right? And I think that's something that even as Christians, sometimes it's very hard to bring them together, right? How does that make sense? And there's a quote from this that I really enjoyed that I think will also fit in really well in talking about retaliation. And there it is, very good. And so this is talking about our hope and why God's wrath matters to that. And therein lies our hope. Through his wrath, the living God shows that he is truly loving, and through his wrath, he will destroy all devilry that we might enjoy him in a purified world, the home of righteousness. So, God destroying all devilry, sounds pretty good, right? I think one of the things that is most telling, however, when we consider the idea of God's wrath, is that boy, it really gets us excited when it's directed at someone or something we don't like. It's very rarely, if ever, probably never, directed at ourselves or our own sin. It is instead directed at that dirty guy, Stephen, and the way he keeps insulting my hair. Stephen, you better calm down. No, but I think in some way that is really how we think about God's wrath. It really excites us when we think about it directed at someone else as opposed to ourselves. And I think that's partially because we really like retaliation. We want things to feel just, if you will. We want things to be right. And ultimately, I feel like more often than not, we want to be right in that. It is not that we want what God's idea of justice would be, but instead we want God to do something that would validate us and validate what we were feeling in that moment. And I think that's really what it comes to for retaliation, is that it's that desire for us to feel right and to feel like the other person has felt the same pain or the same hurt that we have. So last week in D group, as I was asking, I asked my D groups for any ideas because I was just really struggling with the direction for tonight. The critically acclaimed actor Jake Graham, who we actually have right here from Blue Family's movie. Did you see him? Oh, fantastic! But he shared a phrase that his dad frequently said to him as a kid, especially being the oldest child. Really makes sense. But he said, "Don't be the second domino to fall." And so I really wanted to set up a bunch of dominoes tonight, like have an example, but that's so much effort. So instead, you can picture it in your head. You guys know how dominoes work. He said this phrase, "Don't be the second domino to fall," which I'm sure you got sick of as many times as you heard it. And the phrase was said to him a lot to prevent him from retaliating. And I think it makes a really good picture of what retaliation can look like, right? It's something a child can understand, but it's also really applicable to us. And so I think it's the same principle behind why nuclear warfare hasn't happened in a very long time. Mutually assured destruction, right? Because if you retaliate, well, then I'll retaliate. And it keeps escalating and that kind of thing. And so by no means am I saying that someone insulting us or disrespecting us, whatever it might be. I keep joking about my hair. You can tell I care a lot about it. I should probably work on my ego, but anywho. Is that I'm not saying that someone insulting your Crocs, your jeans, whatever it may be, will lead to our mutually assured destruction if you retaliate. Instead, I think it could lead to the assured destruction of our witness as Christians. And shouldn't that be more important to us than our own self-worth, than how we feel about our hair, about our choice in shoes, about our choice in clothes, whatever it may be? Jesus called us to go forth and make disciples, building up the kingdom of God. He did not call for us to build up our own kingdom or build up our own self-worth, ultimately. And so the idea of retaliating is something, like I've mentioned, I struggle with, and I still do. And I think one of the people that I struggle with retaliation towards the most is actually my mom. So by no means is this a physical retaliation, don't worry. But instead, it's one of, as Chase mentioned earlier, of being sarcastic or being passive-aggressive to her. So one example that comes to mind for this very, very vividly is last semester. So last fall, I'm 22, I'm engaged, I've graduated college, I'm a working man, got my 9 to 5, that kind of thing. And my mom texts me the same thing every morning, approximately same formula. She has since freshman year of college, which is, "Hey Nick, good morning, love you, hope you're okay." It's the same thing. There's very little change unless it's like, "Hey Nick, send me this info," or that kind of thing. And it's gotten a little old over the past 4.5 years. But so if I don't reply within like what to her is considered a reasonable amount of time, or if I don't reply by 5 p.m. during the day, I fully expect to receive a text from her saying, quote, "Are you alive?" And that's the text, which that especially made me feel insulted as someone that's 22, because I'm like, I survived 4 years of college, I'm about to get married, I've got a job, I think I can keep myself alive, right? It's really not that hard. I mean, I guess there's ice on my stairs sometimes, and I guess Jake Graham could whip in and hit me with his car in the parking lot. He drives kind of fast. I don't know. I guess there are random things, Maybe Alexis gets really annoyed with me and just takes me out. Oh, gosh. Please no. But I think there's a lot of random things like that. And my mom is very much asking that from a point of parental concern, right? Of, "Hey, Nick, let me know you're okay," that kind of thing. And that was not the way that I was receiving it. And initially, oh boy, I really wanted to retaliate because I felt hurt, right? And so I wanted to hurt her. And so in some way, I wanted to just not reply, right? What's she gonna do? Keep texting me and asking, "Hey, did you die? Yeah, are you dead?" Right? I wanted to not reply because I felt like that was in some way the most hurtful thing I could do. And then my very amazing, albeit sometimes annoying, now wife said, "Should you really do that?" I was like, "Can't you just let me live a little in my head, please?" So I did not do that, as much as I may have wanted to, because that would not be the most God-glorifying thing, or that's probably not why I did that in the moment. Instead, I was probably like, yeah, I should make Taylor happy and do this. Albeit, the action I took was definitely more God-glorifying. Instead, I was like, all right, I can keep going with this. And then Thanksgiving break, when I went home, I said, hey, Mom, let's have a talk about expectations of what communication should look like. Because to me, that does not communicate love. I understand to you it does, but let's work on figuring this out, right? Instead, finding a balance that would work for both of us, as opposed to saying, hey, Mom, we're going with your thing, or saying, yeah, we're going with my thing. Instead, finding a place to meet in the middle, right? And I think in some ways that's definitely the ideal thing. The ideal solution to conflict is some sort of compromise. I'm still working on it. I mean, I'm an only child, and both of my parents are worriers, so that they want to hear from me. And there's COVID and all this stuff, but I'm sure they could find something else to worry about. But anywho, it's a work in progress, right? And I think in some way, me choosing to not retaliate there and instead choosing to, seek a much more reasonable solution, opened up the place for forgiveness and potentially even reconciliation and ultimately stronger relationship than before. And I think that's a big part of why not retaliating matters, right? Because if you lash out at someone, well, that's not necessarily going to make their relationship better. Instead, that might only make things worse. And I'd like to think most of us would like to make most of the relationships in our lives better, hopefully, especially roommates, spouses, family, whoever it may be, right? And I think it says a lot about us as Christians if we can do that, if we can offer that forgiveness, right? As the people who have the greatest understanding and have been given the most forgiveness, as people who are aware of our sin and just how far we have fallen from what God asks of us, what does it say for us if we can't forgive someone for, I don't know, okay, I'll potentially cause havoc here. What does it say about me if I can't forgive Taylor for leaving a few hairs on the shower in the morning that she clearly forgot and would have gotten later, which is a very minor thing that took me 2 seconds to take off and put in the trash? What does it say about me if I can't forgive her for doing that, but I'm saying I'm forgiven by God for my grievous sins against him that are warranting the death of Jesus? What does that say about me if I think I am so self-righteous that those 3 hairs in the shower are ruining my morning? I think it's a very simple thing, and Taylor does not look happy. That's okay. I feel like it was a good example. But what does it say about us if that's what we do, right? And I think that's a silly example, but it shows just how petty we as human beings are, right? If one little thing is not according to our way during the week, or even if it's 2 little things, we can very easily find a way to ignore all the good stuff God has done during the course of the week and instead focus in on the fact that I was mowing grass at the law office yesterday and the lawnmower ran out of gas, and then it took longer, and then that made me eat dinner later, and oh my gosh, life is so tragic. You should pity me, please. What does it say if that is how we react? And so one of the passages that came to mind for me as I was thinking about this, about retaliation and forgiveness is, so it's in Matthew 18. There's not a slide for it. Don't worry. Nothing's missing. Is when Peter asks Jesus how much he is supposed to forgive someone that has sinned against him. So the answer is, so Peter says 7, which is higher than what the rabbi of the day said. Peter surely felt righteous and said, man, I'm so forgiving. Jesus is going to be so impressed with me, as Peter often did. And then Jesus said, how about 7 times 70 times? How about that? Which is obviously not meant to mean we were supposed to count to 490 and then we can stop forgiving someone. So if you were counting right now, please please stop that. That's not literal. But instead, it is saying that very generous number that Peter gave, multiply that by a lot, and that's still not enough. Following that is the parable of the unforgiving servant. So you have the servant who goes to the master with a very large debt, begs, pleads, really asks that the master would forgive him for this debt. And then the master does. He says, go, it's okay. But then that same servant goes and finds another person that owed him some money, a very microscopic amount in comparison, and says, yeah, you got to pay up. The second servant then begs for forgiveness, just as the first one once had, does not receive it, and the first servant is then thrown into jail by the master. And the master says something along the lines of, how can you repay me like this? And this is a parable that's pretty straightforward, right? I think you guys can see where I'm going with this, but it's a reminder we need. We have received so much grace and forgiveness, and yet how little do we forgive ourselves? How little do we accept from others? How little does it take to ruin our day? If a professor posts a lecture 30 minutes late and then that throws off your schedule, it's annoying, it's inconvenient, I agree, but who knows what else they had going on, and maybe there's a chance that they are just incompetent. Yes, that could be the case. But also, let us offer them forgiveness in that, because how much have we been forgiven from? And I think as Christians, that is just so important. And I think this opportunity to offer forgiveness as opposed to retaliating in everyday life is one of the best ways to show the gospel to others. We can talk about the amazing forgiveness that we have in our lives all we want, but when we actually show it to someone, it's fantastic. So I think one of the stories that comes to mind for that, Hannah, you'll remember this. This is a fun one. No, it's fine. So some of you guys might know, there's a light pole out back that fell down last semester. So Hannah and I were woken up at 12:30 or so at night by the sounds of some intoxicated friends pushing on the light post at the base of Scott's parking spot at BCM, and one of them was yelling, "Kevin, quit it! Stop it! What are you doing?" And then we hear a metal thud. So go outside. Oh, hey, there's a light post on the ground now. Oh, the wires are exposed and it's still plugged in. We should do something about that. Which led to a call to Daryl, hey, Daryl, help, what should we do? That kind of thing. The police then came. We went back to bed at 2 in the morning, probably, that kind of thing. And one of the things that struck me the most about that, following that incident, was the police were like, yeah, you should really press charges, really show these people, just really stick it to them. And Daryl said, I don't think we should, though. What if that puts a stumbling block between these people and Jesus? What if they say, yeah, those Christians, they sued me for pushing over a light pole? And it's like, well, you did break the law and damage property. They sued me and I hate Jesus and never, right? And I think that's a very silly example, right? But in some way you get the principle of what that forgiveness looks like, and annoying experience, but awesome example of forgiveness. So the rest of this passage, so verses 40 through 42 also just really enhance the picture of this and what it looks like. So verse 40 speaks of being sued for our shirt and then giving our coat away as well. So it says, if someone asks for your shirt, go ahead and give them your coat, just really go ahead. And so, that makes sense, right? Just go ahead and be naked, it's fine. So for context, Exodus 22, don't worry about a slide, speaks of the way that those under the law were not meant to keep another's coat. So without your coat, you're basically considered naked. It was a big shame to you, to your family, that kind of thing. And yet Jesus here is not even contradicting that. He's saying, yeah, don't worry about it. If someone asks you for your shirt, go ahead and give them your coat. And that's not something that Jesus says is like, yeah, okay, here's my coat. It's him encouraging awesome generosity. What about the next verse, verse 41? If a Roman guard asks, if someone asks you to walk 1 mile, walk with them a second. So the context for that one is back in the day, under military law, any Roman soldier could command a Jew to carry his pack for 1 mile, only 1 mile. I mean, this is where the phrase "going the extra mile," which is in our like everyday secular vocabulary, originates from. And it said, if someone asks of you, you are legally required to go that first mile, go with them a second. Because what does that say about Christians? Maybe it says they're kind of crazy. Then say, what are you crazy about? Jesus. Sets you up for that. But it is a call for us to go above and beyond those moments that are inconvenient, those moments that are annoying, or where we feel disrespected and dishonored. And then lastly, we have verse 42. Which is a call to give and not ask in return. This one, you guys can figure out. You don't really need context for this. So in this moment, I feel like Jesus has really swerved. So it started off with, Jimmy made me upset for doing this thing, and I really want to hit him. I really want to hurt him like he did me. And instead, Jesus has swerved this and said, when someone asks of you, give them more than they ask. Really offer them generosity and kindness. And it's just so crazy to me because like initially we talked about what it looks like to be good, right? And this is not retaliating is in some way being good. It is being right? Like the series called Beyond Rightness. Not retaliating is a good thing. You shouldn't we should work on not doing that and being right. But the call is not just to not retaliate, it is to go beyond that. It is to be extraordinarily kind. It is to give more than was asked of us. And it's not necessarily a calling that any of us will enjoy. It's the next passage, so loving enemies. Another one that's really relatable because we all have so many enemies, ends with, be perfect as your Father in heaven, which I stand by. I just love. It's so sassy, but like in some way, that's what this call is. And so, one of the things that just blows me away is the story of David and the forgiveness that he offers to Saul. So, one more set of slides. 1 Samuel 24 verses 10 through 13. And so the forgiveness here is spectacular. And at this point, I can go ahead and invite the band to begin to make your way forward. But the passage says, "This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave." This is David speaking. "Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lay my hand on my Lord because he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but did not kill you. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate that I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me, but my hand will not touch you. As the old saying goes, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you." So at this point, I'm going to ask everyone in the room, everyone at home, to go ahead and close your eyes. So go ahead, close your eyes. So go ahead and start thinking, who is that person that you can't forgive? Or maybe it's that person that's really hard to love. This could even be something from like 5th grade. And maybe it's not even loving. Maybe it is the act of being around them is draining and it's a challenge and you just don't really like hanging out with them. Maybe it's not a single person. Maybe it's a group of people, right? Maybe you don't like frat guys. Maybe you don't like engineers. Maybe it's liberals. Maybe it's conservatives. Whoever it is, you probably have a person or a group of people or several. And I know I do as well. But I'm about to say a prayer, and as I go through that, I ask that for that person or for that group of people that you would pray this. God, forgive me. I have failed to offer grace and kindness to whoever your person is. I have received so much grace from you, and yet turned around and offered little to nothing. Lord, help me to see them as you do, to not see only their flaws or shortcomings, but instead to see them as you do, God, to see their gifts, their passions, and to begin to rejoice in them as you do, God. Help me, Lord, to love them, to forgive them just as David forgave Saul, that I might draw closer to you, oh God, and help them to do the same. Amen.
All right, guys. We did this song a couple weeks ago, maybe months ago now, called Spirit Lead Me. I just thought it would be a good closing to the night of just allowing the Spirit to lead us, to not retaliate, and just, lead us through His Word. So stand with me as we sing.
This is my worship, this is my offering. In every moment, I withhold nothing. I'm learning to trust you, even when I can't see it. And even in suffering, I have to believe it. If you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. I don't wanna follow my own ways. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit, lead me. Oh, Spirit, lead me. It felt like a burden, but once I could grasp it, you took me further than I was asking. And simply to see you, it's worth it all. My life is an altar. Let your fire fall. If you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. Teach me how to follow in your way. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit, lead me. Oh, Spirit, lead me.
Sing this with conviction tonight.
When all hope is gone and your word is all I've got, I have to believe you still bring water from the rocks to satisfy my thirst, to love me at my worst. And even when I don't remember, you remind me of my worth. I don't trust my ways. I'm trading in my faults. Have laid down everything, 'cause you're all that I want. I've landed on my knees. This is the cup you have for me. And even when it don't make sense, I'm gonna let your spirit lead. 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 Yeah.
Sing Spirit lead.
Spirit lead me.
We're gonna let you lead, Jesus.
Spirit lead me. Spirit lead me. Spirit lead me. If you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. You're the only truth, the life, the way. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit lead me. Oh, Spirit lead me.
Y'all can be seated.
Now is it on? Oh, sweet. Hello. Some of you may know me as Bentley. Others may know me as that guy. I'm here to do announcements. Oh, and a select few of you who listen to good music, right? Those people might know me by my SoundCloud, Young Pow Chicken. So check that out. Pretty good. I ranked 3rd place at the mumble rap category at the 2017 Battle of the Bands in my neighborhood. So I'm kidding. I placed 4th. Let's see. The first thing we have is a quick reminder that this weekend is the men's slumber party. Just kidding. It's the ladies' retreat. That's this Saturday, April 17th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll be doing some worship, hearing some testimonies on various topics, and exploring John 15 and what it means to abide in Jesus Christ, as well as providing a lunch and a craft that you'll want to take home with you. The cost is $5, which covers lunch and your craft, so don't miss out on this opportunity to dive deeper into fellowship with other BCM ladies. See Reagan to sign up tonight after 6:33 or at your Bible study. Let's see. So go ahead and put May 1st on your calendar for the lawningest, most gamingest event to happen this year. That is the BCM Lawn Game Olympics. Woo! Yeah, that was very excited. The BCM Lawn Game Olympics. Woo! Yeah, much better. All right. There will be a cornhole tournament, foursquare and spike ball, although the foursquare and spike ball will not be tournament. COVID restrictions will still be in place, so everyone that's interested will need to sign up for a time slot to attend the event. Each time slot, so there will be 4 one-hour time slots between 2 and 5, and within those 4 time slots, there's a total of 8 preliminaries for the cornhole tournament, as well as just free play for those of you who don't want to compete or just like to play spike ball or foursquare. And then the winners of all of those preliminaries, the 8 winners, will show back up at 6 p.m. that night for the Elite 8. So there will be 3 rounds for the finals, and then we'll crown a winner. If you are good at cornhole, please sign up because Garrett Campbell and Cameron Hall will both really want to win this, so please beat them. If anyone has cornhole boards or spike ball sets that we can borrow, please let a SEAL know, or let your quad leader, one of your quad leaders know, so that they can let us know. Signups will be available tomorrow at Bible studies. There is 1 month left until the end of finals and graduation. So as we begin to look towards the summer and next year, we've got a couple of surveys that we would like you guys to fill out. First of all, if you know anybody that is coming to Virginia Tech next year, please let us know. It is a big help to us and allows us to welcome them. Second, let us know what you're doing over the summer. We want to be able to celebrate and pray for what you guys are up to. So that's all we have for tonight. Peace out to everybody who's watching on the live stream. And for those of you who are here and meeting downstairs, please go through that door. And those who are meeting upstairs, exit through the back. See everyone in 2 weeks, I guess? Is the next time you'll be here?